If we could make more clean power than we need, 100 times cheaper than anything else, a global revolution will follow and the climate crisis will be avoided. We need to build the infrastructure that future generations can't imagine living without. When people figured out how to control water, it led to the agricultural revolution. Instead of planting crops and waiting for it to rain, we started redirecting streams and building aqueducts to grow more crops. It worked so well. Populations exploded and civilizations began to form. We never looked back. Pipes and aqueducts are a foundational piece of infrastructure in every community on Earth. To continue to advance as a species, we need to harness a much more powerful natural resource. The sun is the most powerful thing in our entire solar system. We should use a lot more of its energy. People have been getting very good at turning sunlight into electricity. Solar is deep into its adoption curve. Solar is already the cost leader in electricity production during daylight hours. It's getting so cheap. We are spending billions of dollars to build thousands of solar farms. The only issue is nighttime. We have no way around this. Like early humans, waiting for it to rain on their fields, we wait all night for the sun to shine on our solar panels. But it won't rise for hours, so we're forced to fire up fossil fuel plants to meet demand. We don't use batteries because they're too expensive, and this isn't really going to change due to a very fundamental concept. Batteries are the farming equivalent of grain sheds. But grain sheds don't actually produce crops. They store excess food so you'll have something to eat in the winter. But it's not a great deal. Wouldn't it be awesome to eat everything you grow all summer, then grow just as much food all winter? That sounds like a dream. And stick with me, the dream gets better. Say your farm can only grow crops half of the year. Okay, you will need twice as much farmland to match a farm that can grow crops year-round. So it follows, if you could grow crops all year, you could produce twice as much food with the same farmland. It's the same story with solar farms, but even more so. The sun only shines 25% of the time. So solar panels can only produce electricity 25% of the time because of nighttime and winter. And that's just the average. With the same logic as before, solar panels could produce 4 times the power they do today if the sun never set. Like redirecting a stream to bring water to a farm, we need to redirect sunlight to solar farms. Turns out we've had the technology to redirect sunlight for thousands of years. Mirrors, we just need to put them in the right place. We don't even need to invent anything new. We just need to put mirrors in orbit. How did we miss this? Every single satellite you see reflects sunlight. That's why you see them. They just weren't made specifically for reflecting sunlight, so they don't do it very well. Is there a market for sunlight? Yeah, there is. Just 4 additional hours of sunlight per day shining on the solar farms we have already built would produce $19 billion of electricity per year without changing anything about the solar farms. Okay, we need to provide full power sunlight where it's needed, when it's needed, and not at any other times. And it turns out quite a few people have tried this before. NASA looked into it back in the 1970s. They found that it was way too expensive because solar panels were extremely expensive back then, and all the rockets were also extremely expensive. The Russians launched a space mirror back in 1992, and it was similarly pretty expensive. Now, as launch costs and solar power gets cheaper, this idea keeps looking better and better. Some of the more recent proposals are actually cheaper than fossil fuels. But we must be missing something. And we are. Flat mirrors cannot hit anything smaller than a 3.5 kilometer spot from orbit. They make very large, very dim spots. I wrote up a very simple Monte Carlo simulation to find the theoretically perfect spot size for the solar farms we've already built. If we could hit a 500 meter diameter spot from orbit, it would be about 90 times cheaper than a flat mirror. because the light spreads out 53 times less over that distance, and you can serve 44 times more solar farms per orbit. Several physicists leading massive teams working on the most cutting-edge projects told me it was completely impossible to do this. They said you can't make a spot smaller than 3.5 kilometers. So I dove headfirst into the math to see if there was a way. It took me a couple months to figure this out, but I realized we can hit smaller spots just by using a telescope in reverse. You can clearly see it working here. When I told them about this, they responded, oh yeah, that would work, but won't it be dimmer? And how can you build it? Well, yeah, it will be dimmer at first. However, the light spreads out less, so the reverse telescope will break even at some distance, and then it'll keep getting brighter after that. How do we build huge telescopes like this? After months of trying to make bigger and bigger telescopes, I realized we shouldn't do that. That's actually the wrong approach. We want to be able to mass produce these. So I jumped back into the math and found a way to decouple scale from the required geometric relationships. Now, if we want to cover a really big area, we just have to make a bunch of these little tiles and stick them all together. This just got so much easier to do. So I got a prototype built and went to test it out. So here we have a collimator on the bottom and a normal mirror on the top. And we're gonna get to see how this changes as we get further away. So that mirror and this mirror are the same size. And I got them pointed out over at that jetty there. And what we should see is this one becoming as bright or brighter than that. And here we are. So first spot, way brighter. Way fucking brighter. Okay, here we are at the reflector. And I'm still getting the shine in my eyes from the top one. So top one looking a lot brighter than the bottom one. Yeah, this is definitely faster than running. Oh man, I've run this thing like probably 10 or 12 times today. Tripods and mirrors. You can't make it work with the basics. You don't deserve the cool tools. And they're aimed over here-ish. Yeah, cool. Oh yeah, oh very cool. Okay, cool. I think we got a good one, So, you can see now that the bottom one is brighter than the top one at 500 meters away. Oh, wow. The bottom one's actually brighter. Holy shit. All the light for the collimator is just coming through these little holes, and just the light through these holes, because it's collimated, is brighter by the time you're over there than just a flat mirror. But it will only catch on if it's far cheaper than everything else. A very conservative estimate using today's launch costs to launch up these satellites and, have them pay back over their entire lifetime, it will cost about as much as fossil fuel plants. With Starship's target launch cost, it will be much cheaper than every other way to produce electricity. Your mom is paying $110 per megawatt hour for those lights to stay on because it's 6 p.m. and the sun is kind of going down. Right now, I could supply that for $1.67. Selling sunlight is almost a perfect money machine. You can see exactly how much electricity is produced every nanosecond. Any technology that wants to compete with us has to go through solar first. And solar is cheaper than pretty much everything else on the grid, while things like nuclear power get more expensive over time. We won't light up the night sky. We can just use a sun-synchronous orbit to accomplish this. The satellites will rise at 7 p.m. and set at 9 p.m., serving the greatest power demand right after everybody gets home from work and before they go to bed. And the demand in the morning, too. We won't build a death ray. Each satellite will be incapable of making a spot brighter than the sun. Won't the extra sunlight be worse for the environment? No, not really. TOM adds less thermal energy than burning fossil fuels, and it doesn't release any CO2. It won't take much extra sunlight to power humanity. Just because we could make a Dyson sphere doesn't mean we are going to right away. I need your help to do it right. If you see a reason why this won't work, I need to know about it. I want your harshest questions. Make sure I haven't heard it before. The harsher your questions are, the better our solutions will be. If this idea is still standing, then we need to build it. We can't afford to wait. The Apollo program inspired generations. Decades of hard work from hundreds of thousands of people cemented the US as a global superpower. But walking on another celestial body doesn't really help things here on Earth. We need to make real changes. If we don't do the right things, we are going to be forced to make bad decisions, like running away to a planet with no atmosphere. We will not stop until this is bigger than anything humans have ever done. The sun is the most powerful thing in our entire solar system. Solving global warming is just the first thing we are going to do with this technology. We aren't just going to inspire future generations. We are going to give them something they couldn't imagine living without.